When it comes to the issues that matter most, all roads lead to the political process. For this reason, we in public health have a responsibility to participate in this process. David Hogg is a co-founder of March for Our Lives. Thrust into the world of activism by the largest school shooting in American history, Parkland survivor David has become one of the most compelling voices of his generation. His call to get over politics and get something done challenges Americans to stand up and speak out and work to elect morally just leaders regardless of party affiliation. John Rosenthal is founder of Stop Handgun Violence and president of Meredith Management. He is a successful real estate developer and manager in Massachusetts who has distinguished himself in his ability to balance corporate and individual responsibility.
What would you say to those voters in particular that would encourage them to vote, get engaged? How can you tell them that their voice still matters?
The reason why we got things like student debt cancellation, the reason why we were able to get the first gun safety bill passed in 30 years, even though it was minor, it still happened at the federal level. And the reason why we got the most spending ever on stopping climate change, in large part is because young people turned out to vote and said, we care. We care, and we turned out and we will vote you out if you don't care about us or our future.
We are now at a time in our history where it's really for all the marbles. Democracy is under attack like no time in my lifetime.
I know a lot of people who say that we have the majority in the Senate, in the House, and we have the presidency, and we're still losing rights, so why does my vote matter? It might be very similar to answer to the one you just gave, but how do you kind of combat those views when you're trying to get a turnout from younger voters who have seen their rights overturned despite turning out in record numbers in 2020?
This is a far more important election than 2024, because if we don't win, if we elect people that are literally completely out of touch with reality, that think that school shootings aren't real, that think that democracy is a fraud and the election was stolen despite it being the most transparent election in American history, and we elect people like that to positions like secretaries of state that then use those insane conspiracy theories, even despite the massive lack of evidence, to say that our election was stolen, that's when we really get into hot water, right?
Because if young voters come out, like they did in 18 and 20, we have a real shot at saving our democracy, which is under attack. Our freedom is under attack. I mean, freedom is for all of us, not just some of us.
So do you have any tips or strategies for ways to more briefly understand, or and maybe in another way understand a candidate's platform without necessarily having to dive deep into a candidate's website?
If you can, try to get your mail-in ballot so that you can have more time to do your research on the candidates and not feel like you're stressed, like you're taking some kind of standardized test when you're voting or something. And the thing that I would say more than anything is if you aren't able to get that mail-in ballot and you do just go and vote earlier on election day, do your research, even if it's in the ballot box. I mean, there have been a number of elections that I've gone into where it's like a primary or something, and I have some general idea of who I'm voting for the bigger ticket items at the top of the ballot, but I don't know who a lot of these other people are at the more local level. So what I'll do is I'll just go to their website, and I know it might seem like a lot, but really all you have to do is look at who's endorsed them to see if you agree with them or not. So for example, if you care about environmental policy, have environmental groups endorse them. If you care about having a small business, have small business associations endorse them. If you care about gun safety, have gun safety organizations endorse them. And that's what I would say is basically, it really isn't that hard, and just know there's no time limit for you when you're doing that. And you can take out your phone and just look them up, and it can have a big impact. So that's what I would say.
How do you suggest they start the conversation for their loved ones who may feel differently?
Well, I think it just begins with talking to them about whatever issues they care about in the first place and meeting them where they're at, as difficult as that might be. I have some quite conservative family members myself. But I think it's just about meeting them where they're at, and instead of attacking them, asking them why they feel the way they do and dispelling a lot of common myths that are there. I've done this a lot, even with armed counter-protesters that I've talked to across the country.
And I was just wondering how you approach these topics among young people and maybe their parents also in a way that sort of mobilizes? Are there other emotions like maybe anger or hope or something else that seems to be a better appeal than fear?
You just think in terms of the arc of time. I mean, you're here for a finite amount of time. You know, and the more you give, the more you get. And if you live to be 90, that's 780,000 hours. What you do with those hours and the moments is all you ever really have. And you're in the business of helping people, public health, which really matters.
I think it's righteous indignation. That's the best motivation, which is different from anger. You know, I think anger is just an emotion without direction, but I think righteous indignation is, I think righteous indignation is different from anger in that it's love for the people who society has left unloved. Because I think I forget who said it, but it might have been Cornel West or something that said like, justice is love in the public sphere.
Thank you both. David Hogg, this has been wonderful. John Rosenthal, thank you so much. America is calling, vote. Thank all of you. And to everyone listening to this, please go out and vote. America is calling. We're depending on you. Thank you.